In this scenario, I'm going to go through a timeline from now, October 31st, to December 31st, with the focus on the United States between the last week of November, the Thanksgiving holiday, going through to Christmas time, the end of December 2025, for possible actions that could occur from a very plausible scenario. This is the Urban Sentinel, and let's get into it. October 31st through November 15th. The start of something big. We begin by examining the underlying vulnerabilities that could set the stage for a cascading crisis. While specific previous reports from the FBI, NSA, Department of Defense, to articles from the New York Times and stories on 60 Minutes highlight the ever-growing prevalence of cyber attack as still the most viable method to disrupt the very core of the United States. Many threats have been uncovered in recent years, and some only a few weeks prior to this video, such as the SIM card farm shutdown in New York City by the FBI. Rogue groups like the Russian Sandworm or the Chinese Volt Typhoon, they're not official government agents, but many of their activities could benefit those nations. These groups and several others have displayed great capability to penetrate utility systems repeatedly. Some infiltrations were discovered before they could do damage, others after the fact. Each time, however, our infrastructure is threatened, changes are made and improvements do occur, but the threat remains a critical area of concern for national security experts. At the heart of this scenario is the confirmed interdependence of our critical systems. Experts have long warned about the key vulnerabilities. The national power grid susceptible to breakdowns from digital, physical, or environmental attacks, the supply chain's reliance on just-in-time delivery, and the fragility of financial transactions where millions of dollars move back and forth in fractions of a second, non-stop funding of everything that transpires each day. If one is compromised, for instance, a widespread cyber attack on banking systems, the just-in-time delivery system immediately stalls. Lose power through critical financial sectors, without funds for logistics, commerce freezes, and essential goods cannot move. This creates a domino effect where a single point of failure can lead to a systemic paralysis. We know that sophisticated adversaries are actively probing and in some cases maintaining covert access in critical infrastructure. Reports from cybersecurity agencies have consistently highlighted the persistent threat of state-sponsored actors establishing footholds inside the systems, including public utilities. They aren't active attacks. They're more of a silent presence, pre-positioning that proves that high-level access has been gained by these adversaries inside the networks, waiting for a potential trigger. This covert access represents the significant and most ongoing critical threat to the national security system and its challenges going forward. Adding to these vulnerabilities is the intense and accelerating demand on our existing infrastructure. The rapid expansion of AI computing centers and data storage facilities is placing an unprecedented strain on our electrical grid capacity. These increased loads means that even without a direct attack, the likelihood of local or regional failures due to system overload, equipment malfunction, or even severe weather events from hurricanes, floods, wildfires is growing. The margin for error is shrinking. The time to recovery gets longer, making the entire system more susceptible to disruption. The window from October 31st to November 15th is crucial for personal preparedness, especially if you add in the current SNAP benefit suspension to occur November 1st, and then a series of midterm elections to take place just a few days later. The possibility of election interference in just a handful of districts across the country could upend the entire political landscape, bringing into question the validity of the votes cast and possibly causing multiple recounts. Add the plausible scenario of banks and other lending institutions being compromised by sporadic intrusions affecting the integrity of the monetary system. Using this as a motivator, consider having some cash on hand, and equally important, take a hard, objective look at your basic 72-hour foundation of food and water. If you've got a solid 72 hours, then keep stocking and stacking. But what is useful right now, items that will keep you alive and going, when everyone else is faltering. November 16th to the 24th, the trigger event. We shift to a bit of speculation now, but it's still plausible within the scenario. The psychological shock of the crucial 72 hours leading up to the crisis event, with that proximity being close to the Thanksgiving holiday, amplifying the potential for panic. November 16th to the 20th. Social political tensions continue to mount. Lawmakers are passing the buck back and forth to the numerous utility companies about what should have been done. News reports are dominated by severe, recurrent, systematic grid failures in regions all around the U.S. These aren't isolated random incidents, but a clear pattern of widespread targeted disruption. For approximately 90% of the public, a normalcy bias takes hold. Many will dismiss these events as distant, limited, or irrelevant to their daily lives. However, the prepared individuals, those who have been monitoring the situation, begin their final prep checks, topping off fuel for vehicles or generators, verifying their water reserves, medical supplies, and reviewing emergency plans. November 21st to the 24th. The rumors that were initially dismissed have solidified into a semi-official announcement. This could manifest as an impending bank holiday or a national security cyber alert, urging extreme caution, perhaps as a localized grid pre-shutdown of warnings for specific regions. This becomes the critical window for widespread panic for those beginning to understand something big is happening. The announcement triggers a massive panic buying. Retail shelves already operating on the thin just-in-time inventories, even with additional holiday stock, are emptied within 24 hours. This isn't a production shortage issue yet, but a severe supply level drop created solely by an overwhelming surge in demand, similar to the COVID chaos but on a wider scale. November 24th, the final hours before the potential event. Fuel pumps, increasingly reliant on digital payment systems, begin to stop accepting cards. ATMs reduce the amount of money available to withdraw or are already shut down as regional financial transaction failures become more frequent, indicating a breakdown in the digital infrastructure. Prepared individuals execute their pre-planned shelter-in-place or evacuation strategies, in many cases to literally get out and ahead of the herd that will inevitably move en masse to evacuate. Individuals with the intent to stay put, their focus shifts to securing the immediate home environment, ensuring adequate weather insulation and heating sources, gathering pet care essentials, and confirming all essential supplies and gear are accounted for, ready when needed. November 25th to December 15th, a hybrid assault and system collapse. November 25th to the 27th, a coordinated series of cyber attacks targeting financial and logistical systems achieves a widespread freeze. Simultaneously, physical attacks, perhaps on vulnerable substations, lead to widespread grid failures, lights, ATMs, point-of-sale retail networks, mass transit train and water treatment systems, as well as digital communications across vast areas of the country go out, prompting shutdowns of other standing networks to avoid corruption. The immediate focus is on securing the home, activating backup lighting, deploying physical security measures, and establishing a thermal safe room, especially in cold areas, if possible. The initial after-action assessments are conducted to confirm everyone is secure and accounted for and has their assigned tasks for the next stage. November 28th to December 5th. Without functioning financial transactions, reliable fuel deliveries, the just-in-time supply chain completely collapses. Hospitals and public works systems are forced to rely on dwindling emergency fuel reserves. The initial confusion in the population transitions to localized social disorder as resources become scarce. People demand extra resources that aren't available. Incidents of looting what's left in some locations have begun, escalating to burglary and robbery in other places. Routine tasks are established to conserve water and food supplies. The first tentative attempts at community-level status checks and mutual aid discussions begin, perhaps in town halls or area school gymnasiums, leading to what some call a tribal consolidation. Small groups forming for mutual support within their neighborhood. Smaller towns can often perform these activities better on two levels. Just the smaller population numbers makes it easier to get the word around quickly, and it can be easy to assemble in a single meeting location and get the information out quicker. December 6th through December 15th. Official attempts at recovery largely fail or are severely hampered by the scale of the disruption. Communication for civilians becomes virtually non-existent outside of the NOAA radio broadcasts, commercial radio stations, or amateur radio bands due to the failure of many cell service towers throughout the region. The initial supply of stored water and food in unprepared homes runs out, leading to increased desperation, which increases the risk of bad decisions made in haste. Now, moving past the initial 72-hour milestone after the incident, your focus should be on shifting to making it to the next 7 days, taking your mental preparation in tiny increments instead of one massive challenge. Embrace discomfort and tell yourself that you will get through today by acknowledging this new reality and then the challenges moving forward from this point on. December 16th to December 31st, total system collapse. Our final segment assesses the outcome and decentralized long-term survival environment resulting from the total failure to restore the interconnected systems. By this point, there is a complete and confirmed failure of the primary national grid, widespread communication networks, and the financial systems. News is funneled mostly through radio stations and TV stations still running on backup power. The catastrophic loss of the logistics backbones means that the supply of essential goods will not return to normal for several months, even with government and military response, with the National Guard and several NGOs putting in the overtime. Because of the severity and the severe inclement weather building, realistically stretching into January, February, or even March of 2026. The grim realization sets in. The cascade failure has achieved a total system collapse. Society shifts from temporary crisis management to a long-term decentralized survival paradigm. The immediate threat of the initial collapse has passed, but now the challenge of rebuilding and adapting to a new reality begins. Maintaining mental resilience becomes paramount. Individuals and communities must focus on preserving hope and purpose through established routines, mutual support, and adapting to the new environment. The psychological toll of such an event will be immense, and the conscious efforts to maintain mental well-being are just as crucial to your physical survival as food and water. December 31st. As the year closes, those in preparedness community acknowledge the end of the initial crisis phase. This next period marks the beginning of a long and arduous road ahead. The maximum danger of the initial scenario has passed, but the grim reality of long-term continuous preparedness, maximizing self-sufficiency, and bolstering community building is now the only path forward. Again, this was just a simple thought exercise. There are so many variables in life that there isn't one definitive thing that could go wrong. I could easily talk about a worst-case scenario where 3I Atlas ends up torpedoing the South Pacific, or perhaps a 7.5 earthquake rocks the New Madrid fault line for 12 minutes. This is just something to think about, giving you a baseline to build up from. And I'm well aware that, again, this is only speculation and some people prefer concrete, hard facts, but real life is nothing but speculation. You don't know anything until it actually happens, and even then, you might not even be sure exactly what you do know. Anyway, that's all I got for you now, and I'll catch you in the next one.